All right, well, I guess let's go ahead and start as soon as I make sure that my audio is working here for a sec. 1 second. All right, yeah, I think we're good. But as people are popping in here, let me know. Just go ahead and let me know that you can hear me. And feel free to ask any questions while we play ZBrush today. Today, I'm just going to be doing what I've been doing for the past few streams. A little bit more chill stream. Not a ton of tutorial-like content, but just kind of sculpting and working on some stuff. And specifically today, we are going to be working on something very near and dear to just about everyone's heart, and that is Paul Blart. So, Mr. Kevin James. I don't know. I'm going to be going out of town, or out of the country here in a couple days, and I wanted to do like some kind of quick sketch in the meantime between then, so we settled on Kevin James, Paul Blart here, and we're just going to kind of play around with that and get sculpting. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to open up my chat just so that I can see all of your beautiful words and know what people are actually saying to me. So I can keep Paul Blart open over here on my right side monitor and get to sculpting. It's got a bit of a square shaped face. I think we're gonna stylize this quite a bit. I don't really know how much though yet, as I haven't really planned out what I want my Mr. Blart to look like. But I think, we'll figure it all out in time. It's been a while since I've done a human character, since we were working on Kumadori there for so very long. So this will be fun, but we're not going for incredibly realistic. Like I said, we want to do a little bit stylized. Kevin James. I was trying to see if I could find any 3D models of Paul Blart online, or just Kevin James. Couldn't really find much. But what we could do is we could import some images, but I don't know. We can do that in a little bit. I'm just gonna keep blocking out some stuff for the time being. But yeah. So move brush, clay tubes, nothing too fancy, and that's pretty much it. Just a few brushes here. Really, in these early stages, I'm just being really messy and trying to get the base of the head shape and proportionally where these facial features need to lie. So for a lot of this, it's just a lot of pushing and pulling, and a little bit of kind of additive and subtractive with either my clay tubes or a standard brush on occasion. But for the most part, just clay tubes, and then some Dynamesh in there. Play around with blocking out some features. So pretty simple stuff, pretty standard run-of-the-mill, what you guys have seen me do many times. But yeah, we'll figure out Paul Blart here. You guys know I like to get in all those parts as quickly as possible. So, wrong key. Let's grab a neck, aka just a sphere, and try to line this up. So of course we're gonna want him in his cop outfit here. So I was thinking about his neck just like totally bleeding into his chin and just kind of rolling down, so he's very, very blocky in his primary forms. I don't really know though. We can mess around with it. We can. What do you guys think about the direction? Should we go for just a big old blob of Kevin James? Should we try something a little bit different? I might be into the idea of a blobby Kevin James. or maybe just a very kawaii Paul Blart. You can see here. All right. My chat is somewhat working. It's being really laggy, so I'll have to pop back on over to YouTube here. Alpha and Craig, how's it going? Welcome back, guys. Glad to have you in here as always. We're working on some beautiful Paul Blart Mall Cop today, and maybe some very kawaii, cute Paul Blart. We'll see. We'll see about that though. All in good time. So his nose, honestly. How much do I want to care about proportions? Or how much do I want to just blockify the crap out of this? Just make this really square. Let's start off doing that. Let's just go for a big old block-headed Kevin James. We'll see what we can come up with. We'll start with that direction. At least so we have an idea of where we want to go here. And then maybe we can cutify him later down the road. His face isn't very interesting. He's got a lot of just very rounded shapes going on here. Everything kind of blends together. Mr. Blocky Kevin James. Also, his head just seems very, very tall in this poster. But looking at some actual images of Kevin James, I don't know. His head is still very tall. It's just like way the hell up there. Wow. Which I just love about Mr. Kevin James. We can like try to caricaturize this in a way. If you guys are familiar with caricature drawings where you emphasize certain aspects of a person. Well, it's pretty much the same idea here. I'm trying to like really just make this head as blocky as hell. And then we'll play around with some of these other ideas that we can see here that are more prominent in his face. Like I said, he doesn't have too much going on. So when I start making lips, what I like to do is like to just start by putting like the barrel. It's what people refer to as like the barrel of the mouth, and it's just like this half barrel shape that sits on top of like a flat or your rounded skull surface there, and create like the barrel shape of the teeth and just kind of round that out a bit. And then from there, on top of that, I personally, I'll pull the chin out from there and then try to thicken it and then create the separation between those two parts there. So we'll start doing that here. And I'm just keeping a very low Dynamesh here, as you guys can see. So, and of course, we're gonna have to knock this down and play with it, but all a bunch of pushing and pulling. A lot of people are, I don't want to say afraid to show like early stages of sculpture, but I think a lot of people feel embarrassed in a way that they shouldn't, because everything starts off looking like garbage, and the sooner you get more comfortable with your stuff looking like garbage in the early stages, then the sooner you can really just start to, it's going to help your confidence, and it's going to help you be able to push forward on whatever you're working on at the time. For me, I just don't care, because I know everyone's work looks like a freaking alien in the beginning stages, and it doesn't really matter what it looks like in the beginning stages. It just matters what it looks like at the end when you call it finished and go on to the next thing. That's what really matters. So if your stuff looks like garbage right now, don't feel bad. Just keep working on it. I'm just trying to lay out the major landscapes of this dude's head, while also trying to make it incredibly blocky. So more of a flat face. I think maybe what I want to do is try to capture him a little bit better, and then from there go back through and try to like caricaturize it, just so that I can make sure that it looks like Kevin James. So let's do that instead. So let's try to proportionally go back through here, and instead of starting off blocky, we'll get there eventually. But I don't want to get so far off base in the beginning stages that I don't know what the hell we're looking at anymore. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with... Very, very strange. Alright. Well, if you guys message me in the chat and I don't answer, it's because my chat that I normally use, I have like a pop-out window, separate program that I use. It's not working right now, so I have my reference image up over here. So again, if I don't answer, I apologize. But I'll try to pop on over to the YouTube and check out those comments when I can. Let's let's append some spheres in here. Just to get our eyeball. At least so we have an eyeball. Kevin James has some beady little eyes, but that's why we love him. So when you're sculpting in these early stages, if you see me like looking back and forth here very, very quickly, you can import your images if that helps. But essentially what you're trying to do when capturing these primary forms is do just that, capture those primary forms. But you want to be very careful, because small changes add up to big differences over time. And yeah, those, I don't know, just be careful, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to think and trying to sculpt and talk at the same time, and it just never works, does it? Alright, so we're getting closer. We're getting closer. The face is still too rounded. Proportions are incorrect. This needs to shift. The eyes and nose essentially need to shift down. What we can do here is I'll save this image real quick and then we can import it and you guys can see what I'm looking at. So real quick here. Ramsey says, "Hey Folly, glad I could catch you live. Welcome to the stream, dude. Glad you could join us." Let's see here. And I'll just import episode Paul Blart. If you want to use Lightbox as a reference, make sure you turn off spotlight projection. I think that's in your brush samples. But yes. So what we can do here, so like I said, the eyes, nose, and the mouth section, the mouth needs to shift up and the eyes and nose need to shift down. He's got like this, I wouldn't say super tall forehead, but it's probably more due to his hairline than anything. But you can turn down your opacity. We're gonna use this as a base to like get closer to what we want for our caricature, but I think this is a good way to do that. So let's grab, what do we want? Movie, timeline, show. And we'll just line up our sculpt here. And it doesn't have to be perfect, especially since we have perspective on. It's going to make it a little bit wonkier. So let's just do this, and we'll just click on our timeline, boom, and then we can kind of adjust some stuff here. And then again, I do want to use some forced exaggeration. We can play with what that's going to be, what that's going to look like. If you're really having trouble here with your Dynamesh sculpt, you can always Z-remesh and get down to a lower poly count. That's going to help you a lot. And can start adding in some eyelids here so we at least have some geometry to actually work with there, which can be pretty frustrating in the early stages if you don't. Trying to get a little bit more geometry in there. Not trying to get a curve there too much though. Got a little bit of a neck roll that goes up under that chin. You can see that there. Kind of blending the, sorry, my contact is freaking out on me. Kind of blending into his neck, so chin, roll, neck. What I want to do is, once we get to that point, I want to try to exaggerate that a little bit more. And maybe like a lot more. But we'll see what we can do there. But yeah, just kind of following the basis of our image a little bit. Again, we're not going for perfect, but I want it to you know, I want it to say mall cop when people see it, for sure. But getting all the parts and stuff in there is really going to help with that as well. It's got a pretty big crease between his nasolabial fold there and his mouth. Pretty thick fold. What I like to do for mouths is split the mesh, and then it allows me to have two separate pieces that I can kind of work between. I think it just makes it a little bit easier having two separate subtools there. And I've shown that off multiple times here on the stream, but we're going to do it again and try to do it better. Let's see. It's got a pretty hard nose bridge. It's not as tall as I have it here. Which I can tell just by looking at the front of it. But it does bleed up. So try to get this angle a little bit better. And then I'm just going to pinch around here just so that I can draw out this shape a little bit more. Let's raise our Dynamesh resolution up. Get a little bit more poly count out of that. Whoops, wrong brush. Alright, so start working that geometry a little bit. Get closer to where we want it. And we can go on off over to somewhere else. Ooh, I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. Hate that feeling. Alright, so just kind of trying to get the shape of the skull here a little bit better. We can round that out and play with it a little bit more as we go. And for the eyes here, we're just gonna do a curved tube and insert this over the eye. And use that for our top lid. And we'll repeat the process for the bottom lid as well. I'm just going to come into the eye here and we'll do our standard toy plastic material, as well as get the people here. Let's make the pupils black for now, just so we have a little bit of a reference for the eyes. And an image. One thing to keep in mind with your images is that they all have different settings for the cameras. So if some stuff that you're just working on isn't lining up and you're trying to like orthographic view your image, it's not always the best way to do it, just because there's different focal lengths for cameras, different perspectives and distances going on, all sorts of stuff that can really mess with you. So it's best to have a lot of images to reference for if you're trying to like recreate a person. We're trying to not recreate Mr. James himself perfectly here, but what we are trying to do is, that's a little strange. What we are trying to do is create a little bit of a stylized version of him. Must have had that masked off when I applied that material through there. So let's pull down here and try to adjust this shape. Kevin James has some sad eyes. The sad mall cop. A little too much on that inner lid there. And try to round that out. Get the bottom lid in there and make that look a little bit better. It looks so derpy. I love it. Alright. Bottom lid. Like I said, the more parts you get in there, the faster, the quicker you can reference them, cross-reference them against one another, which really does help quite a bit. I think I need to build up the cheek around this area as well. Flatten out this lid. just a little bit, taper it. And keep trucking. I am going to, oh, wrong brush. I'm gonna make this pupil a bit smaller. If I can mask. I don't know why that's wanting to mask out everything. It's being a little annoying. Very strange. I think I got it that time. Let's see. Okay. And let's try that again. We'll try to make it a little bit smaller. Still not sure why. Okay, now it seems to be working totally fine. Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. It was a little weird. And of course, I have my eyes both facing perfectly forward, but depending on where you're looking, of course, if you're looking farther away, which is typically the case when you're getting your photo taken farther away than what would make your eyes look perfectly straight forward, your eyes are going to be a little bit turned out here. So we'll build up that bottom cheek, fill out the lid shape, try to make this work. And again, my contact is like not my friend right now. I need to throw these things away and get some new ones. Alright, let's try to create a little bit of a crease here. Whoops. There we go. And try to find out where this cheek not necessarily splits, but it's like turning into his crow's feet, the skin that's like wrinkling up around his eye here. But crow's feet aren't very cute for a kawaii Paul Blart, so I don't know, we'll have to figure this out. We are making the cutest Paul Blart just ever seen. We'll see how that goes. Alright. I'll have to just remesh that, clean it up. Same with the cheek here. Kind of mesh that up. Really come in there and pinch that crease really hard. Might just make a single separation there. we look at this from the side, this is really a drastic change that's happening there. So we really want to correct that and make that less noticeable. I'm doing this at a pretty high res, these large scale changes, so that can be tough. Just working with too much geometry for what you're trying to do. Trying to line that up. Let's start splitting this mouth, and then we can move the eyes. It's what looks like needs to happen next. So go ahead and just do a quick mask lasso here, and I'll just do a Control W to polygroup that. If we can get a different color, it doesn't want to be our friend. There we go. All right. So split this off. I'm going to turn on double, split hidden, dynamesh this piece, and dynamesh this bottom piece, as well as scale in that edge, just so it's not super thin. ZBrush isn't a big fan of thin geometry. So we can kind of line that back up if we want, figure out how we want to position this gap, and then start sculpting the lips. Maybe get some quick teeth in there, and try to build this up in a little bit of a better direction as well, as we've kind of gone a little wonky with it. So a little bit of smooth here, a little bit of pinch to try to get the line that you get on the underside of your lips as it changes into your, as it transitions into your chin down below. Got some really, skin is just pulled really tight up through there. Just like a little reminder for myself to maybe get that in later. We'll just mask out, I think, where this, about where this mouth cavity will be, so that we don't mess with our geometry too much, and just kind of get like the starting point of a really easy mouth in here. And we'll do the same thing for the bottom as well. And I want to be careful that I don't push the geometry on the bottom down there, on the underside of that lip. And just kind of push in a little bit, just to get a little bit of a mouth bag in there for what we're going to be working with. Too strong of a bow there on the mouth. No worries though. Lips are thin. Transition is way too rounded up here, so just kind of trimming that down. And it's a problem stemming from our cheeks up here. If I can make those a little bit better. Would be nice if I could just split this nose off really quick. But we might be able to get away with it. Just a little bit of tweaking, a little bit more difficult tweaking that needs to be done because of that. I'm just gonna smooth out that transition for now a little bit and pull it farther up, a little bit closer to where it needs to be. Let's grab our lower jaw here and initialize it into a cylinder. I believe a Y cylinder. Yeah. And what that's going to allow us to do is just get the blocked out teeth in here. So I'm just going to go through here and crease these edges real fast. Just like that. And move them into place. Scale them up a little bit too. So this is what I was talking about for the barrel shape of the mouth. The cylinder should be able to fit in here pretty well. If not, you might need to round out that portion of the mouth a little bit better. Or you might need to stretch out your cylinder just a little bit. But for the most part, this should fit in here fairly well. And we can shrink that down just so it's not popping out the top side of the mouth. Just a couple subdivisions in there just to round it out a little bit. And again, a little bit too much of a bow shape here on the mouth. So I do want to straighten out that transition. Yeah, it's really, really dirty right now. So try to clean that up a little bit. And try to fix this shape down here for the lower lip, which curves and then flattens out. Real messy and really thick, way too thick. Yeah, you can just see how non-uniform that line is. I'm just going to Z-remesh it down real quick. Alright. So that poof of that lower lip is just much too thick. Here, need to take that down quite a bit, as well as try to straighten part of this out, clean it up. A lot of tweaking, a lot of little things here. I think that's what adds to the steep learning curve of not just ZBrush but just sculpting in general. I feel like with drawing, at least, it's a lot easier in the beginning stages to really block out what you want. If you're working with just line, it's a little bit of a more simplified process in the early stages, where with sculpting, in the early stages you're working with large form right off the bat. And you could make an argument that a lot of people do draw and paint like that with large strokes, large brushes, but it feels like so many, sculpting is about so many small micro decisions that really just add up over time, and if you're not careful with those, they can really get out of hand really fast, and all of a sudden things are not going your way. But I think a lot of that comes with practice, and it's hard. It's a steep learning curve, like I said. I think it takes a long time to where you're comfortable with it. And it even takes a long time before I think you feel comfortable with showing a lot of your work in these early stages. I mean, when you're just starting out, you don't really even know that your stuff's terrible, that you're just making poop sandwiches. Everybody else knows, though, for the most part. I've seen a lot of people be encouraged in the wrong way, though, so that's unfortunate when that happens. But for the most part, I think you're blind to a lot of your garbage that you're making in the early stages, which I don't know if that's a good thing, but for me, I don't know. I'm glad that I was like still sharing stuff, and like I said, now I don't even care. But you need to be kind of served the cold dish of, hey, you suck at this, pretty early on, I think. And maybe being a little overconfident can help you get there a little bit quicker until you realize that you absolutely should not be confident. That's I'm sure many of you have seen, like, hey, first sculpt here, what do you guys think? And there's not really much that you can typically say to that. It's pretty much just, it's a thing that you made, try again, keep going, keep pushing on it. But I think it is important to get that information early on. It's tough. ZBrush is tough. Sculpting is tough. ZBrush isn't going to sculpt for you. If there was a sculpt button, I'd be like jamming on that thing all day. This dude's so messy. We're going to have to remesh him. Get rid of all this garbo. So messy. Paul Blart the Messy Boy. Just using a little bit of a pinch brush with my lazy mouse on. Get a real nice straight line there. Try to do the same thing on the cheeks here. Get a little bit of roundness to them. And we'll mess with those later as we start to merge down some parts and pieces. Chapuda, I decided to start using ZBrush today, and I'd like to ask for some tips to make the learning curve a little bit easier. Should I watch certain tutorials, or should I simply go ahead and sculpt? If you're just starting to learn ZBrush, check out my How to ZBrush series on my YouTube channel. I think it's a really good starting place. I made that series as a jumping off point for people to how to ZBrush, essentially. There's a lot of really good tutorials online, but the intent of that series is to get you up and running with most of the stuff that you need to know in the early stages of ZBrush. So that's the intent of that. I would check it out. I have a playlist on my YouTube channel. Just type in how to ZBrush. And then if there's specific questions that you're looking for, I have a bunch of tutorials. There's the ZBrush classroom tutorials, which cover every single point of ZBrush. The reason I made my How to ZBrush series, though, is there's a lot of videos in there. If you were to go through everything, there's a lot of stuff that's old and unused. So I'd recommend start with my How to ZBrush series, and then for specific questions that you're trying to find answers to, go search on there, or just search on YouTube or the internet, or check out the ZBrush subreddit, ask questions in there, or join the ZBrush Discord, which is always a good place to ask questions, which I just so happen to moderate. So go check out all those. There's a link to the ZBrush Discord on my YouTube channel in the banner on the top right corner of the screen, and I think that's what I would recommend for getting started if you're just starting today and are looking for some direction. Ramsey says, how did you learn to be so good at ZBrush? So you 3D model for a living? ? That was a question, and I did a bad job of inflecting that with my voice because I'm very tired. Yes, I do digital sculpting for a living. Just time, dude. Time's the simple answer. Start out working, be really shitty at it, just like anything else, and then in a couple of years you'll realize that you'll realize how crappy you actually are, and then a couple of years later you'll get better. You get better every day. There's time. Time is the answer. Time is the answer to everything. Practice, time, and practice like you want it. I see a lot of people that say they want to do 3D stuff for a living, but their actions don't really reflect their words. So you gotta really mean it. You gotta go after it. Right now, this is looking like garbage, but it will come together. It will come together eventually. How long have we been working on this? Let's see. 54 minutes. Plus talking, so I'm pretty crap at talking and sculpting, but we'll get there. I'm definitely not going to finish this today or anything, but at least we can get headed in the right directiones and get something. That's always important. Get some. This is proportionally poop and terrifying. Proportionally terrifying. Kevin James. Let's see here. That was a terrible spelling. There's not a ton of pictures of Kevin James on the internet. There is a lot of pictures of Paul Blart, though, who is a different person. Thank you very much. Will do. Yeah, absolutely. Check it all out. Let's see here. This is more of a 3/4 view of Mr. James. But let's merge everything, and then we'll make the big head changes all at once here. Okay, so let's spruce this up and merge it down. Perspective always screws with me when you're trying to make a mask from one side, which is annoying. This boy needs some ears. And a little bit more clean geometry. Or a lot of it. So how do we want to do this? We'll just reproject up. So you remesh 1K polys, subdivide, project up, and we'll clean up all the garbage and try to make it actually look like Kevin James. Project all, project all, project all. And I'll subdivide one more time, but I'm not gonna project that one. Alright, so let's clean this boy up. I'm gonna get rid of that. Start off with a hard transition there for the jawline, and it'll soften as I go through and work on it some more. I can also turn on perspective for a sec. I can also throw some ears in here, and that'll aid in this character. I don't really feel... He's kind of got a weird ear, actually, now that I look at it. There's like a lot... Ears have a lot of variation, but the lobe of his ear is like... It's got a really strong divot in it, at least from the perspective that I'm looking at. It appears to have like this really strong divot in it. I might be incorrect, and it might just be something with the light. But I don't know. Looks like Kevin's got a weird ear. Nah, maybe not. I don't know. Oh, I'm sorry, Paul. Paul's got a... Mr. Blart has a weird ear. He's got his happy eyes always. It's just a fact that all fat people are happy. I'm just kidding. All fat people are very sad. They just have the happy eyes to hide their sadness underneath. Paul Blart is a national hero, though, so I can't talk bad about him. Sometimes my pen just stops working randomly, and I have to like pull my pen away from my Cintiq for a second. Try to add some twist in here. Try that again at a lower subdiv, maybe. Closer. These lids need a lot of work. He in general needs a lot of work here. This crease that I threw in here is just terrible. Should try to just get rid of that and redo it. Oops. So just a quick Dynamesh and a gentle smooth on there. And then come on back through. And I'm gonna have to pull the fat and skin down over this lid. Closer. And what I can even do is split those into 2 poly groups and then remesh them and crease that to get like a really nice sharp transition there. The eye will actually bulge out along the pupil here. We can replicate that a little bit, just like that. So that'll cause your eyelids, of course, depending on which direction they're looking, to bulge out around that a little bit. And these are at such a bad angle. Honestly, a lot of the time it's easier to use your eyeball as an eyelid base, just because it has the roundness of your eye already in there. It makes it nice and easy to get a good angle of this wrapping around the eye. But because we used an insert tube curve snap brush, we can just manually kind of do that real quick and just kind of try to push it and round it back. And that's pretty close, so I think that's fine. Let's try this. Just a nice mask. Control W. Z-remesh. Keep groups all the way down. Just like that. We have a nice edge there now. And now we can crease that edge and possibly, whoops, delete edge loop. Delete a couple of these. And work with that to get us a bit better shape there. And not only that, but I would like to delete a couple of these. So I'm just using dynamic smooth to kind of get an idea of what that would look like if I were to subdivide it. And then I'm just modifying the geometry underneath. And again, just try to mask and really look like it's wrapping around that eyeball. Top lid's a lot closer. Next would be the bottom. But what I'm going to do is Z-modeler, bevel, edge loop complete, and let's do extrude poly loop. And start to get the shape of that lid a little bit closer. And on top of that, I'm just gonna control click to kind of mask out the lower portion here. And that didn't work out exactly the way I wanted. Let's instead try to just maybe use our move brush, kind of push in a little bit. so it looks less like it's going into the eye. And we're spending a lot of time on the eyes here, but we'll move on to some more stuff here in a sec, once I kind of get that a little bit closer. And the last thing we'll do is attempt to kind of get the shape of that a little bit better there in the corner. And of course we can subdivide and smooth this out as we go, but currently it's still, you know, just low poly, but that's fine, no worries. So yes, that is much closer to what we were looking for. And I can even pull down just to get that iconic Paul Blart smiling eye, as they call it in the films industry. It's very well known. All right, and a little bit more thin on this lower piece. Kind of mesh that. And we'll do a super low subdiv or ZBrush to get a super low poly count. And not exactly a clean poly loop like we had the previous time, because I used poly groups to get a nice loop there. But we can do the same thing here. Might make it a little bit easier for us. I think for the time being, though, we move on with some of the other shapes here. Turn on perspective real quick. Want to try to change this transition here on the side a little bit more, as well as fix his cheeks. So all through here. Alpha, welcome back. How you doing? Hopefully your personal ZBrush journeys are going well for you. If anybody's working on anything cool, always feel free to share it in the ZBrush Discord. Love seeing everybody's stuff in there. And let's see here. Raphael, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. Glad you could come hang out. Hope you're doing well since the last time we spoke. No longer working on Kumadori, no. Now we're working on Paul Blart, the greatest mall cop to ever grace this God's green earth. And right now we've been sculpting for maybe an hour and 15. Just kind of playing around, not in too big of a hurry, but trying to get the basic shapes of his head, and then maybe go in more of a stylized direction. And I think if we start giving him his mustache and everything else, which, you know, we can do that right now. He's got like a really unique mustache. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just an arch. It's a beautiful arch. Let's use a mask pen and try to get that shape in there. And well, actually, more of a handlebar, I guess. I guess so in all the pictures where he's frowning, it's pretty difficult to tell because it looks just straight. But here it looks a little bit more handlebar-y. Maybe we can, yeah. Oh man, that thing's just a nasty boy on there. I don't know how I feel about it. Alright, so let's, I guess we'll just get this little chinchilla on here, and maybe we can even start to bring it down a little bit, and then we'll mess with the geometry after we extract this. So just a quick extraction. I am going to have to lower this thickness by quite a bit, most likely. Maybe not quite that much. So I'm just going to accept that. And from here, let's do a keep groups Z mesh and see if we can clean this up a bit. Alpha is a blender boy. And yes, the mall cop, of course the mall cop. Mall cop's where all the fun is. And is it split down the middle? A little hard to tell. Little difficult to tell. But yeah, this thing is grody. We'll have to clean up parts of his face more as we get through playing with this. And his head shape. I was saying that I wanted to get to a point where we could exaggerate it and make it really blocky, because he does have a little bit more blocky of a face, but we can play with it as we go. Let's real quick here. I have an ear that I'm just gonna import here from an old file. So real quick, because I don't feel like sculpting an ear right now. Let's see. Where are you, ear? So many old projects. Too many old projects, actually. I guess. Let me just do a quick search. There she blows. Oh, maybe not. Let's see. Here we go. Some old ears. If you guys remember, we did a live stream where we sculpted some ears a while back, and we also did a little bit of a tutorial series on them. But I'm just gonna grab an ear, going up to my face, and append that ear that I just imported. And that's huge and in the wrong location, but that's fine. I'm just going to delete that. We can scale down, find a good position for the ear, and even use our image here to figure out where we want to place that. And of course there's perspective and everything else going on here, so it's going to make it a little bit difficult to get an accurate representation of that. So I think what I want to do is try to bring in, whoops, part of the face here. Just a little bit. And gosh, I cannot switch subtools. Come on. And that'll help us line up our jaw. Line up our jawline a little bit better. And of course our neck just looks so silly, kind of tacked on down here. That's fine. Mess with this later. It's not a huge deal. I don't think it takes too long to block out something like this. Whew, that's some messy geo. Let's see. You'll sculpt the whole body? Question mark. No, I will not sculpt the whole body. This is just a quick little in-between doodle to have some fun time and make our beloved national hero Kevin James, Mall Cop, Paul Blart, and have some fun. Next up is going to be the next character from the same universe as Kumadori, the bear samurai character that we have all come to know and love. So the next character, I'm not positive yet on which one I'm going to work on, so I have a pretty good idea, but I won't announce it quite yet. I'm going to be going out of the country here in a couple days, and I won't be returning for at least a week. So until then, when I return, then we can start streaming again and working on the new character. And I would like to maybe get a little bit more of a regular schedule for streaming. So if it seems like typically the later that I stream in my time zone, I'm EST in the United States, so it seems like the later I stream here, typically more people can come and hang out during that time, and if that seems to be a good time to stream for people, then we can try to make that work. But again, just try to find something a little bit more regular in terms of streaming times, and a little bit more consistent. Then we can hang out and make Paul Blarts all day long and have a great time. But yep, I'm going to Italy here in a couple days, and yeah, have some fun there. And come on back and get our stream on. Paul Blart just has the strongest jawline, as we all know. I can't even see my reference anymore. Oh man, Mr. Blart. You can't even see his jawline. That always happens to me when I'm sculpting jaws. Start to sculpt it from the front and it bulges out way too much, and then I have to adjust it from the back view, and Just notice how unstraight certain lines are, and it's just 3D's tough. Too many angles, and by too many angles I mean literally every angle, all the angles. Alright, try to soften this up. Kind of just bleeds into the neck really well. I think I'll merge that and then tweak it from there and like get my trim dynamic in there along that creased edge. That's wrong. Try to get the traps in there a little bit better. Maybe not quite that thick though. We'll get a collar in here. We'll get his mall cop outfit. We'll do it all, but we'll do it all in good time. One thing at a time. We'll blend that transition a little bit better as well. And get that going. I don't think I have enough fat around the eyes, which is something I said I was going to do, but then forgot to do. So that makes sense, I guess. It's really hard to get a nice shape in here, so you gotta be careful. Trying to balance between the pinch of the ocular cavity there, as well as just the skin and fat pad that sits there. I believe there is a fat pad there. I might be mistaken, but Just bouncing between that rounded skin through here. Try to bring this up a little bit. And I don't have the nasolabial folds going up into the nose, so we need to correct that as well. So just a line coming down through about there. And just trying to round out here as it goes up over the nose. And we can even just get a gentle smooth through there. Try to capture that a little bit better. It's a difficult shape to recognize and understand, and then try to do justice and representing it in a 3D form. This nose is just completely wrong, and we'll have to come back to it here in a sec. Oh, let's not forget. I don't even think about this stuff. I'm like, yeah, it's on the one side, sure, we're good. You can throw that on the other one too. Hey, he looks like a little bit more human now that he has 2 ears. Wow, that's crazy. I am destroying that. See if we can fix it. Again, another nice reason to have the nose split off into its own subtool. Let's try this real quick. And then we can get some really clean, really nice shapes with this nose. I pride myself on making a good nose, so let's do that. Ah, yes. The true form of Paul Blart. Everyone knows. Everyone knows your secret now, Paul Blart. Alright, so I'm just splitting that off. Got a little bit of extra geometry there, that should be fine. And can just Dynamesh. We'll raise our Dynamesh count up to 5, so 500 resolution, which at this size is giving us just over 1 million polys. Totally fine. And now I can come in here and clean this up nicely. Not worry about that nose being in the way. And in all honesty, I think Paul Blart looks better without a nose. Anime Paul Blart. Oh my gosh. I don't know how Paul Blart hasn't had an anime yet, in all honesty. Really trying to even out that line a little bit. It's making it tough though. As I always say, when in doubt, split it out. If you're having trouble getting a specific form you want, it's always nice to split that subtool off, or split multiple subtools off if you need to, and rework them and then combine them later. Shouldn't be too hard. And can get some nice clean forms for it. Okay. Try to clean up our nose. I think we still need a little bit more volume in this portion, nasolabial fold. Just kind of using a large move brush to pull that out. And let's mess with our nose here. What's the best way to go about this? Let me find a good picture for his nose. A little bit of a 3/4 view here. Create some poly groups just to create a little bit of a split. Let's start with that and see how that does. So poly groups can be very powerful. Can help you bend your geometry to whatever you're attempting to get. In this case, to help me split that shape a little bit better. Of course, we have a nasty little star happening in here, which is, you know, an unfortunate side effect of ZRemesher. It's automatic geometry, so you work with what you can get. Sometimes it's a lot worse than what you want though. So there's some little tricks that you can do to clean that up a little bit better. Let's see. So I think coming through here, got some real nasty geometry. Just trying to get a pinch through there though. Turn that off. Got a pretty what I would call standard nose. Got a nice nose shape. So you know what? Paul Blart's got that going for him, at least. A nice nose. You heard it here first, kids. Okay, so now let's tweak some angles here. Not really going the way I want it to. Let's try this. Find a little bit of a different image. Okay. Start here, and then I'll probably try to inflate this line a little bit. A good way to think of a nose is if you're looking at it from the front, it should look like a Ninja Turtle mask almost, depending on the nose, but you can kind of see the Ninja Turtle mask here, if you know what I'm talking about. Kind of looks like a Ninja Turtle mask. So that's one way. If you're sketching, that is. I mean, you're trying to draw a nose from that front perspective. But every nose is different, and if you're sculpting, you know, you're not just looking at it from one angle, of course. So, maybe not the best analogy there for shape, but I think it helps you get a good starting point. Try to fight the polygons here to get them to do what I need them to. So, started off with that pinch, and then just softening it to have like an inflate happen along that line that I created. So after I dynameshed it, essentially got rid of all that geometry that was bundled up there. It made it a little bit easier to work with. All stuff that you just kind of figure out by playing with ZBrush here. That transition. And this needs to narrow itself. Alright, so not really what I want. Let's try to just lower this. Might jump on something else and then come back to this. Let's look at some quick eyebrows, just while we got that here. Just gonna use mask pen and turn off perspective. It's got some high eyebrows, or at least Paul Blart does. Definitely not that thick, but we'll mess with them. No, Kevin James does not have that nice and arching eyebrow shape, but Paul Blart certainly does. So there's obviously, you know, some eyebrow cinemagic going on here in the Paul Blart universe. That's a fine starting point. So what we would do from there is just extract. That's going to be really thick. Let's just accept that, and we can still work with it. And we can even get closer to a point of putting a hairline in there. So I'm just going to smooth those out. Z-remesh as low as I can with keep groups on. And hope that that doesn't happen. Let's try that again. Not sure why that's happening. Let's delete one side and try it again. See if we're still getting it. Okay. So I'm just gonna turn off keep groups. Not entirely sure what was causing that. It might have been just the resolution. I could have tried a little bit higher, but I think we're fine here. Wanted to make that top lid just a little bit thicker. Ooh, ooh. Bless me. And got some big old. He's got a big old chinchilla mustache, big old chinchilla eyebrows. Paul Blart is just Mr. Chinchilla, Mr. Fuzzy Caterpillar. All right. Let's look at the basic hairline here as well. can just do something real quick with starting off with the mask lasso. So again, he's got a pretty tall hairline. He's all forehead. Got some very beautiful sideburns. And kind of just, you know, he's a very square fella, so I'm just gonna guess that the back of his hairline is pretty straight. Oh no. Some weird pictures of Paul Blart on Google, guys. Don't go searching. Alright, so we haven't accurately captured Paul Blart quite yet, but we're getting closer. All in good time. I don't even think we've gone for 2 hours yet here. Let's check our timer. 1:50. So we still got some time. Plus like I said, I don't plan on finishing old Blarty boy here and during this first stream. But I would like to maybe get a little sketch of him done by the time I leave. Youpie, hey, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well. Try to let this extraction calculate. And we can do some more work here. I need to tighten up this crease for the nasolabial fold on the top portion. We can maybe sculpt some basic hair there. Let's perspective back on. Nice new project. Happy to watch it, thanks. Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Yeah, today we're just doing a little sketch of Paul Blart, Mr. Mall Cop himself. And just have some fun with it. Play around, hang out. Do some ZBrush. I wanted to do just a quick small project before I left, so I'm gonna be going out of the country here in a couple days, going to Italy, so won't have much time to sculpt once I'm over there, but I will have time here in the next couple days to finish whatever we want to do up. And what we want to do, of course, is just Paul Blart. Who wouldn't want to do Paul Blart? In more ways than one, of course. Just gonna push in around here. And I have Acu Curve on my move brush turned on, so it gets a really sharp push in. Gotta be careful when you use it though. This can be pretty destructive, depending on what you're doing. I guess we can just fill these with white real quick. And our nose shape just isn't good. It just is not what we want. So let's try to correct that. we go. Getting closer. So many little subtle changes that you can do here that just really, they feel so small, but they really do. They really do add up and make a world of difference. I'm gonna try this distance here. It's really bothering me. I need to bring it in. So I think I want to kind of play with that next, and maybe try to get these eye bags a little bit better. Also bringing up that cheekbone there as well as I do this. I'm gonna be softening that transition anyway, so it's not a huge deal. And as I merge those lower eyelids down, that's also gonna change things quite a bit. Closer and closer. Paul Blart is coming along. I'm gonna have to build up some more weight, aka some chub around certain parts. But I say if we had a suit on this guy, police badge and tie, not suit, but like a suit, shirt, his uniform, we'd have a nice little Paul Blart starting along. I'm gonna wait to create the clothing and props though. Just try to build up some more volume through here. Carefully with my trim dynamic. In this case, I'm holding Alt with the trim dynamic brush, and it's a pretty similar interaction to what you get with like a clay buildup or clay tubes, but just a lot weaker, as well as it's filling in a lot of uneven surfaces. So a little bit of a different technique, but good for still building up that form. If I'm still not quite getting there, I can use the move brush and try to pull that out a little bit. that face though, right? Isn't it? It's just gorgeous. It's beautiful. Beautiful Mr. Blart, the police officer extraordinaire. We'll get there, we'll get there. All in good time. Beck Station, welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining us. Let's merge some stuff into our main face. So typically I'll keep the lower eyelids separate, but I will merge down, I'm sorry, I keep the upper eyelids separated, but I'll merge those lower lids down pretty early. For the nose, can make sure that we're feeling comfortable enough to merge that down. Let's just adjust here a little bit so that I can maybe try to bring this in a little bit here and try to round that out to help in that transition between the skin, the face, and the nose there. And yeah, we can pinch, help with that crease, and then I think we can kind of merge that down and work it a little bit more. As well as throwing some fat around the neck, work on the hair, which we kind of just extracted real quick, as well as the mustache and a lot of this. But yeah, we got a lot of work ahead of us for sure. Paul Blart definitely has the goofiest of smiles, we all know. So give me that nose, and I'll merge that down. And then I think that's a good place to Dynamesh. And then maybe these ears as well. Typically like to keep the ears separate for a while. It's not great here. Line that up a little bit better. I'll keep them separate for a little bit longer. Try that again. And let's just Dynamesh this. We'll do a little bit higher. Let's pull a quick save. And just like that, we are good to move forward. It's pretty quick. Oh, that's because they didn't actually Dynamesh. There we go. Let's actually make sure that they connect. And work on some of these forms that need to be cleaned up. We could have even combined the neck. We don't have to do that quite yet though. But what we will want to do is just get some polygons that we can actually work with at a lower subdiv. So of course, back to our ZBrush, and we'll do a little bit higher this time. Try 3. Should give us around 6,000 polys, I'm guessing. Then we can project up. So 7, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so just close holes. If I wanted to, I could even come through here and do some poly loops by using keep groups on and using poly groups. Whoops, wrong button. Which is a pretty effective way of getting some nice facial poly loops, but I don't really care about that currently, so we're just gonna keep going with the geometry that we got. It'd take a lot of time for doing something that's not gonna last, because I'm just gonna Dynamesh the ears back onto this face later down the road anyway, so it's not a huge deal. Okie doke. Make sure everything else is on, and now we can kind of clean up around here. Jawline is practically invisible as it blends into the neck. What we have happening down here is, I'll just grab a curved tube. And try to fix that a little bit. There we go. So we have a little bit of a fat roll happening up under the chin, and this will help us blend the neck quite a bit more as well. So not really visible from the side anywhere here, more so just right under the chin. And then with the neck, got a little bit of a butt chin going on as well. Maybe a little too much there. His chin is not nearly as defined as I have it here, as well as this needs to shift up. I have a little too much length happening up under the lower lip here. Whoops. Try that again. Haven't really given much work on this lower lip at all. Could spend a minute here just kind of trying to make it look a little bit better. and just kind of try to inflate this lower lip a tiny bit. As well as pinch the inner crease here a little bit. Try to get this shape. You can try back face masking with move. It's not going to do what I want. Try to pinch that again. There's one thing I could do. We'll get rid of our geometry that we just made. Our subdiv levels, which I don't really want to do quite yet. Let's fight it for another second here. Oh, Paul, your mustache is hideous, and the caterpillar that we put in place is not giving your mustache justice. Oh, we need to move this as well. Moist Cavity Map, welcome to the stream. How are you? I don't think you've ever been here before. Today we're doing something a little bit different. We're doing a quick little sketch of our homeboy Paul Blart. You know, everyone's favorite American hero from everyone's favorite American film, Paul Blart, Mall Cop. The greatest hero our nation has ever received. So we're doing a quick little sketch of him, and I'm going to be working on that for the next couple days here. We just wrapped up working on about a month-long character, Kumadori, Samurai Bear, which was a long project. It was a fun one though. There's still some more stuff that I can do for 3D printing with him, but in terms of lucrativity, I guess the amount of time and money it would cost for me to print that right now is not a great idea. So I'm going to hold off on printing him until I get my resin printer, and then print a bunch more stuff with that probably. But that won't be for a while now. So we'll hold off on that, and that won't be till around February when I get that, hopefully, as long as Kickstarter and everything goes as planned, which it's a pretty trustworthy company. They've done a bunch of successful 3D print Kickstarters in the past, so it's the same people that made the Titan, if you guys are familiar with that, Titan and Titan 2, which is a DLP machine, I believe. I've never used one personally. But the machine that I'm getting is a SLA, so a resin print, and that should be a lot of fun once that comes. Let's do 400. Dynamesh that. Try not to let that happen. I'll do another Dynamesh, but I'll lower it a lot this time. Still a little too exaggerated, I think. As you remesh this, just so I don't need as many polys as I have here, and remeshing down to around 10K or 8, that should be fine. Still keeps most of the forms there that I had. I don't need to project back up. I want the smoothness that comes with my remesh there. And yeah, we're gonna have to work on this face a whole lot more. Luckily, it only took us like what, 2 hours to get to this point, so we can put another 2 hours into this guy and be in a pretty good place, and keep going even past that if we want. So let's do like a little bit of a pinch through here, and then soften it a little bit. Do you get these models ready for animation/game engines? No, I do not. Let's do a ZBrush. Keep groups. Start off with 5 and try to knock that down even lower, just to make sure I don't get any weird errors here. It's a pretty high poly count, so You can see. Shenron, how you doing? Welcome back. Glad to see you. Yeah, we got a little bit of a weird poly group going on down there, so that's a little annoying. We'll keep this at around 1. Damn it, perspective. Always getting in the way. And I would like to just scale this group in. And scoot it down a little bit. I'll have to play with that. Your caricatures are very unique. Do you have any inspirations from other artists? Yeah, I'm inspired by a ton of artists. I follow hundreds of artists. But like my art is not. If you're asking me like about my particular style of sculpting or my work in general, it is my own for the most part, but I mean, if you go over to my art station here, like stuff like this is a copy of, it's trying to copy this guy's sketch, so pretty close there. Trying to copy his painterly style as well. This is obviously just Toadette from Super Mario. So in terms of like my own stuff, like this is just Fiona from the Cincinnati Zoo, Marina from Splatoon 2, but in a little bit of a stylized manner, but still pretty close. If anything, my style is like just like taking stuff and making it maybe more sculptural, but for the most part, like a lot of what I do is taking a 2D concept and then changing it into 3D and trying to do that as best as I can, maybe like tweaking it a little bit more than I want. This is just like an original character and concept that I created. The last thing that I was working on, Kumadori, samurai bear boy, giant cool hammer. He's got some nice little koi fish swimming around on his hammer, some cool relief sculpture. So I don't know, if you go over to my art station, you can check, again, like I said, I follow hundreds of artists that I pull inspiration from, specifically 478 artists. You can go check all those guys out. Just go to artstation.com/Follygon and give them a look-sees. And if you're looking for some cool artists to follow, other than, you know, yours truly, which who streams, you know, once in a blue moon. Hopefully more though soon. Hopefully more. But yeah, that's I guess that's where I pull some inspiration from. Currently, I'm literally just looking at a picture of Paul Blart and then, you know, doing it in a quick sketch sculptorly way of just representing that work, and then we'll try to like emphasize certain parts of it and not necessarily caricaturize it, but in a way try to do something like that. So we'll see. We've only been working on this for a couple hours, so we're not too far in. We still got a long ways to go. It's the one thing that people struggle to understand a lot, is that 3D takes literally forever. It takes a long time, and I think anybody can do, you know, create anything in art. It's just a matter of how long it takes you. And the more work you put in the past helps you with creating stuff a little bit more quickly in the future. But yes, so moving forward here with our mall cop, man, we can try to emphasize the parts that make Mr. Blart Mr. Blart. I know this may sound cliche, but would you mind checking my art station as well and giving some pointers? Yeah, absolutely. Another great place to look for some critique is what I would say is send me a message on Discord. Join the ZBrush Discord here. There's a link to that on my YouTube channel in the about page, or like on the banner image. Join this and go to the Share Your Work tab here and post some of your work and grab some critique on that. What I would also do is not just ask for some pointers or something like that. I think that's very vague. Instead, I would be very specific. So if you want someone or me to look at a specific piece and ask about how you can improve it in specific ways or something like that, just make sure that you're very intentional with your critique. So don't just say, hey, what do you like and don't like about something? Especially because that's a very good way to get some opinions from people, and opinions are not what you want for the most part, I think. Most of the time what you're looking for is just like, most of the time people are either looking for recognition that they're like on the right path, or stuff that they need to kind of correct and fix that's pretty objectively incorrect about their work, and in ways that they can do so, which can be tough to get good critique. But yeah, absolutely, I don't mind taking a look at that later. Sorry to bother you, but what are you creating? Says Broadstone. No, you're not bothering me at all. We've been sketching for the past 2 hours. Let's see here. Roll on back. We started with a sphere, and we're making Paul Blart Mall Cop because why the hell not? I'm going to be going out of town for like a week or so here soon, so I don't have much time. So we're just doing a quick little sketch. I can run through the history here so you can kind of see what we've done for the past 2 hours. So just a quick little run down here all the way up to 2,500 strokes later, plus, you know, all the marks that I've made on all the other subtools, so probably around 5,000 actions thus far, which really isn't that many. We're gonna have to do a lot more to this boy. But yes, we're kind of just playing around, working on creating Paul Blart, as I said. So there she blows. Let's crease this edge up top. Or actually, you know what? I'm fine with not doing that. We can maybe get a little bit more of some character just by moving this around. I want to find a little bit better picture of Mall Copster. Moist Cavity Map says, that's fair. Yeah, so definitely check out the ZBrush Discord. Like I said, ask for some critique on there, be intentional with it, but by all means, send me the link to your, I think you said ArtStation, and I do not mind checking it out at all. But maybe if you have a specific piece or something that you want me to look at, or if maybe you could be a little more intentional, about telling me exactly what you're attempting to accomplish with your work. Like if you're looking for a job or something like that, that could be very helpful as well. Guys, we're just making our mall cop a little bit too sexy, I think. It's just too sexy. We need to de-sexify our Paul Blart mall cop. And, you know, he's already just extremely sexy, so I think we got a little bit too much sexy going on here. So let's split his hair and give him a nice hairline. Everybody just go Google Paul Blart and go to the Google images and just revel in what you have discovered, the magical source of infinite entertainment. Whoops. I want to delete my lower subdivisions. And I want to get a nice quick slice. Let's move that a little bit. Try that again. Fudge. Let's try this. Try to switch up this angle. Hey, how many hours would you say it takes a professional to make a full body sculpt? For example, just a basic female with clothes. Nothing from fantasy. That's very dependent on a lot of factors, namely the skill of the person creating the sculpt. It's also dependent on what kind of clothes, and if they're sculpting the clothes from hand. And let's see here, 500. And same on the other side, 500. Whoops. But yes, that's very dependent of many different factors, I would say. When it comes to anatomy, do you still use reference, or is it second nature by this point? That's so funny. I don't know of any artist that doesn't use reference for anatomy. Here's a little tip. Your work will always be better if you use reference. Always, no matter what. I always use reference. Always. Right now, I mean, I'm just freaking looking at Kevin James's face and sculpting away. So I'm not like specifically looking at let's see, I'm not looking at this dude's face over here attempting to like match up everything. I'm just kind of freely going here and having some fun sculpting Paul Blart, but if I was trying to be intentional, gosh, I don't know why I can't say that word. If I was trying to be intentional about my work and, you know, be very accurate, of course I would be using reference. I always use reference, and there's no reason that you should not use reference. Also, on a side note, once I get back from Italy, I've been working on a little bit of a podcasting project with a friend of mine. His name is Daryl, and he is a traditional sculptor. So if that's something that you guys think that you would be interested in, it's a little bit of an art podcast, just kind of talking about a lot of different things. We're currently calling it Art Anonymous. So it's your weekly or whatever AA meeting that's going to be fun. But we've recorded a couple things, and we're not going to publish them quite yet because we still need to work on some stuff and do some editing. But we're going to have the first episode up sometime in December, and then have some fun with it. But I think I'm just going to upload it on my YouTube channel here, and then maybe see where it goes from there. In terms of, but it's just going to be audio only. In terms of getting some podcast hosting services, that stuff's pretty expensive. And when I already have, you know, a YouTube account, you might as well just kind of plop them up on there, I think. I think a lot of people listen to streams and stuff and watch, like, a lot of people just listen to YouTube videos. And probably a lot of people just listen to my streams from what I've heard from other people. So I'm not like, I'm fine with uploading them on YouTube. So if that's something that you guys think you would be interested in, a little bit of a fun sculpting podcast from a digital sculptor and my buddy Daryl, again, who is a traditional sculptor. Specifically, he does a lot of, he claims to be a ceramicist. He does a lot of wheel throwing and some other stuff, and he's got an art show coming up here soon with some figure work that he's done. But yeah, if that's something that sounds interesting, be on the lookout for that. Again, more info on that later, but probably around December is when we plan on releasing the first episode for that. Let's see here. Proco once tried to draw a kangaroo from memory without reference. I do know who Proco is. I think he's just a 2D illustrator. But yeah, he's a great artist. Let's see. I like working with others. That's why I like art streams. Well, awesome. Well, definitely share your work in the ZBrush Discord, what you're working on right now. I would love to check it out too. Let's see. Try to draw a kangaroo from memory without reference. What you end up finding, in 2D you can cheat a little bit. In 3D a little bit less so, simply because you have to draw it from every angle, right? That's what sculpting is. I mean, it can be something like an ant. If you told someone to draw an ant, and we talk about this in one of our first recordings of the podcast, actually, about using reference and how important it is, and how a lot of people, we don't know why, but people get this idea that using reference is bad. We're not really quite sure where that idea comes from. If you think using reference for your work is bad, you're probably not a very good artist. You're probably just starting out and you have this misconception. So we're not really sure where that idea basically comes from. But again, we talk about this in one of our first recordings, but it's the idea of there's this school somewhere, I can't remember where, I'm going to butcher the story because it's been a while since I've read this, but they would have people come in to get into their art school, and their entrance exam was they would sit down, and the professor at the front of the room would just say, everybody, you have 60 seconds to draw an ant, go. and everybody has paper and pencil on their desk, and they have to draw an ant. And it doesn't matter how good your ant looks. What people are looking for is how good your mental library is in this case. They're saying, do you really understand what an ant looks like? Of course, we all know what an ant is. We've all seen ants before. But it's strange when you start to think about it. It's like, okay, well, I need to make sure that all 6 legs connect from the middle segment of the ant. I need to make sure that there are 2 antennae coming out of the head. And again, you have 60 seconds, so you don't have a lot of time here to draw your ant. But what they're looking for is a lot of people that are doing this are drawing their ant, and they are putting some legs up in the neck, or some legs on the lower, the third section of the ant, which I believe is the thorax, maybe. Off the top of my head, though, it's been a while, so I don't remember what it's called. But the last segment, so if you got legs coming out of your last segment, it's like auto-fail the exam. So they're just like trying to figure out how much do you actually understand about what you look at. And that's something that comes with training, and I think it's a fundamental of art in general. It's just your visual library and understanding of just how things work and seeing things for how they truly are. And it's a thing that I could talk about for a long time, and thankfully I already have. So like I said, if you guys are interested in a little bit of an art sculpting podcast between 2 sculpting buds, check it out when we release it. But yeah, mental library. I'm trying to remember where I heard that term. I think I first heard it from Mark Bernay a while ago. But yeah, so let's combine these. I'm just polygrouping them. And again, our mall cop is just too sexy, so we need to desexify him quite a bit. Let's see here real quick. Can't wait for the podcast. Hope you guys talk about the job market as well. I don't know if we have yet, but one thing that we are doing is, if you guys have specific questions, if you want to, typically on like Thursday or Friday, which is when we're going to be recording, I'm going to be asking people for some art questions or just topics or anything like that. So that's a pretty good one. I'll make a note of that, talking about like the job market, and maybe if you want to specify that question a little bit more in a certain direction, that could lead that discussion a little bit better. But yeah, if people have questions and stuff like that, shoot them over. And we're looking for. We had a lot of fun when we were recording, so I think it's definitely something that we're gonna keep doing here. But like I said, probably not till middle of December until we release one of those. So we will see when we get there. But yeah, let me try to remesh this hair piece real quick. Let's see, quick link here from Antaraz to a YouTube video. Proco drawing his kangaroo from memory. So let's see. I think it was him kind of failing at drawing a kangaroo. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be the kangaroo there or this. But yeah, it's it's very, very important to have a reference. And I don't know if that was the intent of what he was trying to say there, but it seems maybe like it. Let me go ahead and crease this edge. We got a little bit of a funky edge loop happening there. I think we can make that work. Gonna think of some questions and shoot them to you on Discord. Awesome, yeah, go for it. Absolutely, greatly appreciate it. Or if you want to just, since we already recorded the first episode, if you want to just either send them to us, yeah, actually go ahead and do that. But then in the future, once we start releasing more, what we're probably going to do is just say throw them down in the comments of each recording. So that should make it easier to kind of curate those. But for now, yeah, that's totally fine. Or if anybody else has some questions they want to send my way, topics or anything like that, absolutely. And I think what we decided that we're doing is, since it's Art Anonymous AA, what we've kind of decided is that we don't know if we'll keep everybody as an anonymous person when they ask questions, but what we're calling people are our AA members, which is just awesome. And you guys will hear more about it later. But yeah, it's a fun time recording. We always make sure we have just a little bit of bourbon with us to help get the art juices flowing, which is probably a bad practice for if you're actually working on art. I wouldn't recommend it, but for talking about art, hell yeah, go for it. Would you recommend using ZBrush to retopologize a model for animation optimization? Absolutely not. No, not at all. ZBrush is good at a lot of things, but retopo is not one of them. Use Maya, or use like 3D Code or something, or Topogun, or infinite number of other softwares. But yeah, not ZBrush. I wouldn't recommend it, at least. Not for retopo. Wanna get some more volume up in this her. So of course this is like pretty stylized, pretty geometric here. Maybe we can do something with it, but I'm kind of fine with the direction that it's going right now. That made me laugh. I use Topogun. So there you go. Yeah, stick with the Topogun. I think you're good. Alright, we'll leave that for now and just keep messing with some other stuff. We're actually getting pretty close on time here, though, so. Are you familiar with Leslie Van Broek's work? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. She's one of the artists, one of the 400 plus artists that I told you that I follow on my art station. Yes, I am familiar with her. I think I follow her on Twitter as well. I'm assuming you enjoy her work, and that is why you are asking. But I do like her work, yeah. All right, Mustachio. The pedo stash needs to change a little bit. So the handlebars, make them maybe a little bit more straight. I need to do something with these lips. I might need to resplit them just a little bit. Perspective screwed me over again. Shut up, doggies. The dog's barking in the background. It's constant. It's not a Follygon stream without the dogs barking, I don't think. It just doesn't count. I think let's resplit here. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful right there. Very much so. Same as Creature Box. Not familiar with Creature Box, but I assume you're saying very much so to Leslie's work. So, split hidden here real quick. This is just, I think this is a good color for our mesh, so I think I'm just gonna kinda just use this from now on. I think this is the future of our character. I can't even see what's happening. We could use this though. This is my other clay material. These are just my two clay materials that I made and I use to sculpt with. I use this one when I'm getting a little tired of staring at the black and white, which doesn't happen too often, but it's always nice to kind of get a little bit of a different perspective on your work. And typically, you know, basic material is pretty good to work with. I like my personal material more, obviously, which is why I use it. And I like this material as well. If you guys are interested in those materials, I think there's a link in the description to my Gumroad where you can get them over there. So let's Dynamesh. Let's try closing holes actually first, because we're getting some weird junk here with the mouth bag. So we want to be careful. So I'm going to try to scale that in. Yeah. So I guess we can just adjust this a little bit here. When I Dynamesh this, it's probably going to give me a bunch of holes here. I can try though. Let's see. Yeah, so see all that those holes? That's a no-no. We don't want that. Let's see what the top piece did. That's fine. That's easy to work with. But we also... Alright, let's try Dynameshing then. Okay, that's a little bit better. And now I can kind of work with that mouth and work with this mustache. This mustache a little better. And try to flatten it a little bit. So very round. And we can remesh this as well. A quick little trim dynamic happening there. Could use really any of your trim brushes though. I just prefer that trim dynamic. I just need a picture of Paul Blart smiling. Oh man. Oh gosh. This is apparently Paul Blart's smile. So I'm gonna say we get rid of the handlebars and just keep it straight across. I think it's just for some reason in this art here, obviously it's a fake mustache I think, but it's like a handlebar mustache, and it might just be the shape of his mouth doing that, because everywhere else it seems like, well, maybe not. There it comes down a little bit. I don't know. I think we'll get rid of the handlebars though, and try to just make it a pedo stash, I guess. Sorry for anybody watching that has a mustache that looks like Paul Blart's mustache. So let's just delete hidden. There's a couple ways that I can get a really... Let's try this. Whoops. Let's try that again. Just trying to clean this up so that I can remesh this and get it a little bit better. And not the correct shape. We do want it to come down. Just do a quick mirror and weld. And try to lengthen it a little bit. Try the move brush. And I'm just gonna ZBrush that real quick. Hey dogs, shut up please. You're very, very loud. My whole home is surrounded by dogs on all sides, so I am right in the middle of a dog park essentially. Guys, our Paul Blart is too sexy. As I said, I need to keep on, I'm looking at Paul Blart over here and he does look very sexy, but I need to stop adding in all that sex appeal as I see it. It's very difficult not to though. When creating a full body character, do you use Z-spheres or just go piece by piece? Or another way? I don't use Z-spheres. I never use Z-spheres. I shouldn't say never. I hardly ever use Z-spheres. And the only reason that people still use Z-spheres is because there's a lot of old tutorials online that teach people to use Z-spheres. And that's why my How to ZBrush course exists. I don't talk about Z-spheres in that because I think they're an old method that is kind of not really too useful anymore. I think it's a better process to create everything from just primitive geometry and Dynamesh and work with it that way. I think that's a lot better tactic, and that's why I sculpt that way, because I do believe that it's better, and I think Z-spheres are good for very specific things, but I think they're going the way of shadow box, obsolete. I can't remember the last time I ever used shadow box for anything, and I don't think there's any reason why you would need to learn about shadow box if you're interested in learning everything about ZBrush. It's just kind of useless. anymore. And I think there's a lot of stuff like that, Z-spheres included, being one. So what I typically do is I'll, just the way that I'm working now, as you've been watching, I just kind of started with a sphere. And let's go back. So I would create the full figure the same way that I did this. Start with a sphere, build the shape up, sculpt, 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 sculpt. With the neck, I started with a sphere on the neck. And then just sculpt, 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 sculpt. Pull around, push around, sculpt it away. So same idea. So that's how I would do the full body. And I think I have some videos, maybe not like showing the entire process, because honestly that would be such a long recording and take forever to edit. And very few people, not enough people, it would not be worth the effort, is what I'm trying to say, of creating that. But I do have some base meshes that I've created in that way, and sometimes what I'll do is if I'm creating a full character, I'll start with one of my own base meshes that I've created and go from there. And I think it's important to not just use other people's base meshes a lot of the time, but create your own if you haven't, and practice creating full characters on your own until you feel comfortable using your own work to go back from and work over top of. So I like using a lot of my old work, so again I just imported those ears in here, and maybe they're not exactly what I want, but I haven't made any changes to them really, but it wouldn't be very hard for me to do so. But I sculpted, on a live stream, I sculpted 3 ears, and now it's now I can use those ears whenever I want and just play around with them. But Shadowbox is a pretty cool tool, but you're right, I never use it. Yeah, Shadowbox is interesting, I would say. I think it's unique, but I think it's pretty close to useless. If you don't know what Shadowbox is, this is Shadowbox. Essentially, you draw masks on each face of the box, and when you're done, essentially it projects those 3 masks forward to create your shape here. So if I put a mask up here and click Shadowbox, it's not going to create anything, because that geometry has to intersect in at least 2 quadrants. You can turn that off, and now you can see that we're getting some extra geometry in here. Now I'm getting 2 mustaches because this is going forward and hitting this, which is saying put the mustache there, and it's also hitting that, which is saying put some mustache there. But yeah, pretty useless for most things, I would say. There's some stuff that I can't think of a single thing that I would want to use Shadowbox for off the top of my head. So I don't know. Let's fix some junk down here. As well as fix these holes. Had a little bit of lag there on a move action. Typically whenever that happens, it's indicative that you're about to experience a crash, but I just had back face masking on, so that's why it wasn't moving. I thought it was lagging, but it wasn't. every once in a while, after you've used ZBrush for a long time, you can like almost sense when it's about to have a crash. A lot of the time it's just kind of out of the blue too, so. Should be a pretty easy line to smooth out. I'm just using move backface masking to kind of get that in there nicely. And I can try to turn off my symmetry and do a little trick here with this upper lip to kind of give it a little bit more volume. So just move it up a little bit and then mirror and weld. Give it a little bit more of that shape. Something that has been bothering me, do you ever mask a small area to subdivide for tertiary detail, or do you avoid doing that? Are you asking if I subdivide different parts of my mesh in different amounts? So if you guys don't know, I can subdivide this model and get about 4 times as many polys by doing that. Or I can mask off a certain area and only subdivide that area specifically. No, I do not do that very often. I would say I almost never do that. I think it can be useful in certain points, but I don't know, I like to have everything in a nice, clean, similar subdiv level if I'm working on it. There might be like rare instances where I'm like, yes, I would like to do that, but for the most part, I think it just keeps you more mentally sane. It's a little bit easier to work with by keeping it all in the same subdiv. I think that looks pretty close. I'm trying to get rid of all this garbage. I don't know how much of that will merge with the inner portion of the mouth. Probably not much, actually. So let's do this. Very clean geo going on here. For the most part, I don't care about how clean my geometry is. Saying that, you look at this and it looks pretty dang clean, but as long as what needs to be clean is clean, especially in the early stages, it doesn't matter how clean or dirty you are, but as long as what you see and what needs to be clean is clean, like I said, I think you're good. You don't need everything to be perfect unless you want it to be. think we're getting closer to Paul Blart. I think we're getting there. Maybe doesn't look exactly like him, but I think we've made some really good progress here, considering, you know, we started with a big old sphere. Started from scratch. And what are we at here? We're at 3 hours and 9 minutes. So I think that's, you know, some pretty good progress for the day. And I think that's going to be a good place to stop as well. So, excuse me. Let me grab a drink real quick. So in the next stream, hopefully here tomorrow, we'll work more on our Paul Blart and hang out some more, do some Q&A stuff as we normally do, and try to make some more progress here. But yeah, like I said, for some of you that wanted to send me some of your work, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but yes, please do just send me a link over on Discord or wherever, and I'll be sure to take a look at it. But until then, I'll talk to you all in the next stream. Hopefully tomorrow, like I said, probably around the same time. And I'll see you all then. So, see you guys. Thanks again for coming.